Hi, and welcome back to Dirtbag Baseball Talk. Kirk McNabb here, as always, and stuff. And today's guest, I'm happy to have with me Bill Dickman. Bill Dickman, and this is a kind of a field of dreams, a living the American dream, but all the way across the Atlantic Ocean over in Germany. So Bill is an American, and just we want you to sit back and enjoy this story. As you know, that's kind of our goal here at Dirtbag Baseball Nation, is to share really cool baseball stories. It's more than just a game. It's in our blood wherever we are around the world. It's who we are. It really is who we are in the baseball world and the sports world. So, Bill, great to have you on with me today. Appreciate your time, and I really love this story, and I wanted to get it out there and share it with you.
Well, thanks very much, Kirk. It's great to be a part of this, and I'm glad
Yeah.
that we met a while ago. So, yeah, thank you for having me.
For sure, for sure. So, Dirtbag, just sit back and enjoy it. Take us through a bit of the journey, Bill. You are American, Ohio born, I believe, and where does a boy from Ohio all of a sudden go and become a German, almost citizen? I guess you've been over there that long. Tell us a bit of your story.
Yeah, well, how much time do you have, sort of thing. You're right. I grew up, was reared in Ohio, central Ohio, had aspirations of becoming a professional baseball player. Of course, I wanted to also get a decent college education. But to play, as you know, to play all year round, the choices are probably best if you go out west or southwest or south. And in my case, I decided to go south. And I was a walk-on. I was a walk-on at a Division II school called Florida Southern College in Lakeland, Florida. And of course, didn't have a scholarship. They don't know you from Adam, but you walk on, and was fortunate enough to make the team as a pitcher. There were other times when I thought, you know what, I can actually take a bat and actually do some damage there at the plate. And they said, Bill, you're a pitcher. So, but it was quite the experience, and these guys obviously take their baseball very seriously. National champions, I believe, 6 times, if not more, Division II national champions. There came a point when I decided to concentrate on my studies, but baseball was always my passion. Finished up school there and had the opportunity to go to Germany. Okay. To make that story a little bit longer, I didn't even realize that there was baseball in Germany until after I'd been here for 3 years. Played for a league at that time. It was called the German American Baseball League. Of the 9 players on the team, 2 had to be German. Very different than what the federations have now, where 2 of the 9 are allowed to be non-EU passport holders. Right. But that made the caliber of play actually quite good. These were baseball players who had, played baseball since their childhood, and the caliber of play was very good. Through the first Gulf War and the ensuing troop reductions that the Americans had here, that league went away. And of course, if baseball is going to be successful, I think if baseball is going to be successful in Europe, then it should, and it has to be run by the federations. And that's what happened. I then switched to the German Federation league, if you will. Played in Mannheim, played in Mainz, was their vice president to try to get Mainz up and running. I mean, it was 9 kids at a time, 9 young guys who played. And now I think there are over 300 or 400 members in that club, and very successful.
And healthy.
From a Hunstetten point of view, we're just 15 minutes outside of the big city of Wiesbaden. Wiesbaden has about almost 300,000 people. We're 15 minutes outside of that in a relatively rural area. My wife and I had 2 boys, and when they were, I believe, 5 and 7 years old, I thought, they're very much into sports. They're very athletic. And at that time, if you wanted to play sports, at least in that area, you had a choice between soccer or soccer. And my passion being baseball, grew up with baseball. I said, let's just see if there's any interest in baseball. So I put on what could be termed a introduction to baseball day. Not really sure if 2 kids were going to come to that. We didn't make it that public. I'm not sure if 2 or 20 kids would be coming, but yeah, at the risk of being the pushy father or sounding like one, I knew 2 kids were going to come on that day, at least on that day. And 200 people showed up, 200 families with kids and youth, and 92 kids signed up to say, we want to play baseball. I thought I realized that, they're going to find out that it's not as exotic perhaps as they had first envisioned. They're going to have to work hard. They're going to have to sweat just like other sports and learn this. And some might drop away, but here we are now in our 20th year, and we have so many different youth teams. We have 2 men's teams. One of those men's teams is what they call the first Bundesliga, the top league in Germany. And that was probably a long way of saying, how did I get involved? But that's my story of where we are today and how we got there.
Yeah, it really is. You hit the nail early on in that, Bill, in the fact that, there's still a lot of the world in baseball that doesn't even realize how many countries around the world actually have leagues, have opportunities post-college, for players to go and travel, explore the countryside, the countries, in this case, Europe. Once you're there, I mean, for anybody out there listening that, you hear about Europe, but you've never been there, it really is true, Bill, because I'm in France, obviously, and that coaching right now, presently, but back home for in Canada for the wintertime. But once you're there, it's easy to get around. The train system is phenomenal. Even flights are so cheap or whatever and that. So it really is a phenomenal experience for them to be able to have as a player, myself as a coach, my wife coming over and stuff like that. So let's get back. You said Hunstetten. And so Hunstetten is a region of Germany, of communities, about 10 different areas. Is that correct?
It's 10 different villages that, for lack of a better term, were encompassed into or brought into a community. So 10 different villages, not too dissimilar to what you find in the Midwest. Every so miles or so, you'll find a different village. Well, back in the 70s, in order to save money, perhaps, on administrative costs, one town hall and one administration, they said these 10 villages belong to the community of Hunstetten. So there's Hunstetten Limbach, Hunstetten Kesselbach, where I live, Hunstetten Gösrot, 10 villages that belong to that. All in all, these 10 have 10,000 people. Yeah. Outside of that, I'd say in the greater vicinity, certainly not a metropolitan area, but in the greater vicinity, which is maybe, I don't know, 15 miles in each direction, you have maybe 55 to 65,000.
Okay.
And then you go another 15 minutes, that is to Wiesbaden, and then you have a huge city to choose from. So sure. We are the only first Bundesliga team in the state of Hessen. Germany has 16 states, the state of Hessen. We're the only first Bundesliga team. So we start to become an address also for, people who want to play top-notch baseball as well.
Absolutely, and that's a huge thing to be able to accomplish that. And Dirtbags, we do apologize. The intent of our first episode here with Bill was to have him at the field today, to show off this kind of field of dreams. As you heard him just talk about it, it is like the Midwest, so it really is like Bill Dickman's field of dreams in Germany, of all things. And I realize it's not a sole you alone doing this and stuff like that. You're driving it, you're navigating the bus, so to speak, Bill, and stuff like that. But there is a team that's with you, and absolutely. So my whole point is, Dirtbags, that Bill will be getting me photos of the field and stuff like that. It really is quite unique. It's right in a farmer's area and stuff like that. And we'll talk about more about that, but it really is unique. So we apologize that we couldn't have Bill on site today, but it is raining over there. It wasn't too suitable for video content for today, for weather-wise anyways. But so yeah, back to it, Bill. So first Bundesliga. You had to start from the ground up, ground zero, kind of take the audience through that a little bit so they understand how it works a little bit, from the top division down to, I think, just men's recreational, basically, if you want to.
Yeah, sure. In fact, it's probably good to put that on a timeline, where we came from and what we focused on and where we are today. Before I do that, I really would like to underline exactly. It's probably extremely important in most cases to have someone who has a vision. I think one important chancellor at one time, Helmut Schmidt, I think, of Germany, once said, if you have visions, it's time to go see a psychoanalyst. But I think it is important to have someone maybe drive, like you said, drive the boat, or at least have these visions. But I really want to stress, this would not have happened without the individuals that were even there in the beginning. People like Chris Higgins, who didn't also realize there was baseball over here, the opportunity to build something. And then over time, if you're going to try to make something happen, you need people, and you need good people who maybe don't even understand baseball in the beginning. And that was sometimes the case because baseball is what it is over here as far as reaching a broader public. But you find individuals who are smart, they're passionate, they want to make a difference, in this case, in kids' lives. And we did a pretty good job of spreading or having them drink the wine, if you will, as far as this vision is concerned. So getting back to putting this on a timeline, what we did, and it was probably by virtue of the fact that both Chris and I had young kids at that age, we focused on youth. Okay. And the German structure or the federations, and it's probably no different in other European places, the T-ballers go up to maybe 7 to 8 years old. And then they have something called school-age kids. In German, it's called Schüler. That's 8 to 12-year-olds. Then there's youth. That's 13 to 15. Very organized federation, and state federations as well, or state leagues as well. Juniors are 16 to 18-year-olds. There's women's softball, girls softball, and then there are leagues that could be male and female. For the most intents and purposes, they're male, and there are different levels of that, going all the way up into what they would call the Premier League or the top league, and that's First Bundesliga. So we've started focusing on youth, but those 8-year-olds who started way back when are now 28, and awesome. If they can and want to play at that level, then they have this opportunity. So I think it's really important for the future. Without, speaking of a philosophy, I think it's really important that these clubs do have some kind of a basis that they can always grow from. And that's what we try to do. Sometimes I think clubs, they go through their ups and downs. And we, through COVID and all that, maybe took our eye off a little bit off the youth. But now we have the structure, and it's working well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you hit the nail on the head, right? It's like anywhere. If you don't have a core base, it's pretty tough. It's a pretty volatile business, no matter what you're in. And what people need to understand is every one of you is out there in the world, stateside, European, Asia, doesn't matter, man. When you're the volunteers in the muck and grinding and looking for sponsorship dollars and revenue dollars to keep a product on the field or whatever, and that for the pure love and enjoyment of the game of baseball, hey, you got to get up, get after it, and get dirty, as we like to say here at the Nation and stuff like that. So let's talk about that quick a little bit. So you're at the Division I level now. You've achieved that status, and that's not an easy toe to hold, but you've made it there. You have to keep competing in there. Just for context for the listeners, please, how many teams? I believe it's 12 teams, and you're split into the North and the South in Germany.
That's exactly right. In fact, there are 6 teams in the North, usually, or the past years, pre-COVID and others, it was actually 8 and 8, North and South. Last year, or this year, 2023, it was 6 in the North, 7 in the South. And then a decision was made, to which I don't personally adhere to, but a decision was made at the federation level to say, let's go for 2024 for 6 and 6, which meant, as the new guy on the block, you really had to, prove, the proof is in the pudding if you're going to be able to hang with the big dog, so to say. Got to get in at least under number 5, or else, number 6 and number 7, and a team wanted to come up from the second Bundesliga will vie for, normally it's 2 spots, but now we're going down to 6 teams. It's vying for 1 spot. We have an excellent team. We have this desire to also stay in the league, and we were fortunate enough that we won all of the relegation games. And so yes, for 2024, it's 6 in the North and 6 in the South, and we're part of that.
For sure. And let's really get down to that then, Bill, as we're getting to the back end of this episode. Give maybe a parent, a coach, even a player out there that has an interest now that said, holy cow, I didn't even know this stuff existed over there. What's it look like? How do you get involved? Every European country is sort of similar, but they got little subtle differences too. So exactly what is the import to German player ratio for the German Bundesliga?
That's a good question. It varies at the risk of giving you a wishy-washy answer. It varies by club to club, but at least of the 9 players on the field, 2 of those 9 are allowed to be non-EU passport holders, which means you either grab at German citizens who know the game obviously and can play at that level, or fellows where maybe baseball is played at a high level, like Czech Republic or Netherlands or Italy or Spain. In a lot of cases, you'll find individuals, for example, from Dominican Republic or Cuba even, or Venezuela, where it's the #1 sport, baseball, but they also have an Italian or Portuguese or Spanish passport, so they count as EU players. So,
and that's really important, not to cut you off or whatever. And that's dirtbags that are outside of Europe right now. When Bill speaks of EU, he's talking about European Union designates. So Britain, for example, England is not part of the EU anymore.
Well, that's a good point, and sorry for interrupting you. At the end of the day, you're right. Certainly, politically speaking, because of Brexit, the UK doesn't belong anymore. However, at least in Germany's case, and I don't know what the case is for other federations, but in Germany federation cases, they count, at least they do this year, even Swiss people. And as you can imagine, Swiss baseball players are very few and far between, but also from the UK perspective, despite Brexit, they still count as European players.
Okay.
I think the designation is probably best to say a European player and not an EU player.
Sure.
But,
So if you're outside of that, you're coming in as an import. That's what we're saying, dirtbags, and it's important to know that. So really, roughly, you would have what maybe if you're in the right situation, you might have up to 3 players that are imports on a regular season. Maybe 2, maybe 3, but around that.
And yeah, that's exactly right. In fact, of the 9, and you want to be playing all the time if you're one of these so-called imports. We usually play double headers, either 2 on a Sunday or 2 on a Saturday. If we split it, then they're actually 7-inning games. Then, if it's a double header, if we split them into individual games, say 1 on a Friday night, 1 on a Saturday, or 1 on a Saturday, 1 on a Sunday, then it's 9-inning games. You want to be an individual who makes a contribution and plays all the time. So 2 of those 9 can be non-European players. What generally happens is you get 2. For that second game of a doubleheader in Germany, you can have a 3rd player, and he can be the pitcher. He can only be the pitcher.
Okay.
And funny enough, he has to be batted for. He's not allowed to bat for himself, so you basically have like 2.5 players. So to answer your question on who's carried on the roster, then we had the fortune of saying, I think we had 4 altogether.
Okay.
That were there. So, but you want to make sure that everyone's playing. So 2 are sitting, or 1.5 are sitting. that's the case in our. But normally you're right. Maybe 2 to 3.
Yeah, I had the same situation in France where I am and stuff like that. Yeah, it's diligent work as a coach and stuff like that. You got to be prepared, and you got to be able to really know your players at the end of the day and how they're feeling and stuff like that. So, where do you see yourself in the next 4 to 5 years if everything went well? You've got the Field of Dreams built. You've got I hate to say it like this, the hard work done, because it's always hard work. It's really ongoing hard work. But if everything came to fruition in Bill Dickman's mind and his Field of Dreams, what would it look like? What would Hunstetten Storm look like in 5 years?
That's an excellent question. Now we're getting into the vision, but yeah, I think ultimately we want to be the address of people of where to find baseball at very good levels. And at good levels, I mean find baseball, be the address in the so-called Rhine-Main area. That's the Main River that flows through Frankfurt, flows into the Rhine River, which goes north and south from Switzerland all the way to the Netherlands. So it's around north-south. So that Rhine-Main area, which is Mainz and Wiesbaden and Frankfurt, be the address. Be the address for the best baseball you can find. Baseball from a player's perspective. I'm a youth player. I want to get better. I want to improve. Where can I do that? I'm an adult. Where's the address to be for First Bundesliga? I would like to go to Storm. From a development perspective, we'll have that focus on youth, and that having that basis, I think, is always going to be vital and essential. From an infrastructure, there's always something to do. We'd like to have lights. We'd like to have lights. They're not cheap. We'd like to have facilities that make it a little more welcoming than the initial field of dreams, where you basically out of a rapeseed or canola oil field made a baseball facility. And that means appropriate or proper stands, proper lighting, like I said, maybe an indoor facility, things like that, where you can do things year round at your facility. I think that is the appropriate vision to have, and then you have to make it happen with people, and money doesn't solve all issues, but money would certainly help. And
Sure.
and by the way, getting not to take up too much time, this whole idea of Field of Dreams, I think it's important to mention where we came from. When we first started out 20 years ago, we were youth teams playing on a soccer field, and that's maybe sufficient when you're young. We were part of a soccer club that at least offered the facilities, covered the insurances, things like that you need as a club. But then as they get older, as you can imagine, you need the length of a soccer field in both directions from home plate. And all of a sudden, in our case, right field was a little bit short. So
it would be.
Yeah. And then looking out, I mean, where can we go? And trying to convince the powers to be, who maybe don't know baseball, that you need land to be bigger than a soccer field was quite the undertaking to convince them of this vision. I learned a lot about local politics. I've learned a lot about people. I think we all have. But at the end of the day, a couple of years ago, the booster club that we set aside separate from the sports club, the booster club took it in their hands and said, let's try to see if we can convince people that this is the right thing to do. The Hunstetten community, the town hall said, you know what? You didn't go away. This wasn't a flash in the pan idea. Here we are, at that time, I think 16 years later. Let's see what we can do. Well, what we can do was they leased us the land for the right to build upon it. And it was farmland. It was, like I said, a canola field. They rotate their crops. Sometimes it's maybe corn, sometimes it's a canola. We did our calculations, and we said for a small youth field, or for a youth field, and for a regular size adult field, and all of the earth moving that has to happen, all of the fencing that has to have, the drainage systems and so on, we're probably we're going to need up towards 450,000, which is basically like $500,000 US to make this happen. The town hall said, great, good luck. We'll support you where you can, but it's not going to be monetarily. So off we went. Don't feel sorry for yourself, make things happen. And we were very fortunate to have some generous donors who understood what we were doing, understood what baseball can mean, because not every kid does play foosball or soccer, and had some very nice shots in the arm financially there. Still, it wasn't until we reached out to Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball had something called the Baseball Tomorrow Fund. I don't know if it's in existence anymore, but at that time, the idea behind the BTF, or the Baseball Tomorrow Fund, was to refurbish or to actually reignite urban baseball in North America. Kids, the numbers were diminishing. Kids were playing different sports. At the risk of shooting at basketball right now, it's a lot easier to throw out a basketball and you've got a game. Baseball's a little bit different when you need 18 kids and coaching and fields and all of that stuff. Extreme sports, brought the kids away from baseball sometimes, individual sports. I don't know if this is true, but this is my inkling that similar to NBA and NFL, I think Major League Baseball probably noticed if we're going to grow, then we're going to have to grow internationally as well. So they opened this BTF open to the world. We applied for it, and we were very fortunate that they said, you know what, that's exactly the type of undertaking that we'd like to support. And we were very fortunate, received $192,000 US to make our Field of Dreams, if you will, happen. And without Major League Baseball, we wouldn't be, even in this basic version of facility that we have, we wouldn't be where we are. So very, very appreciative of that. So
Yeah.
that's how that came.
Fantastic story for sure. There's no question from start to finish, Bill. And I know the journey's just beginning for you. As crazy as that sounds, even though you've been going 20 years already and stuff, but and I can tell talking to you off air and stuff like that, your excitement, your passion for the game of baseball, and that's why I had to do this story for sure. So, a player, a coach, maybe a sponsor, a partner. We don't know what's going to happen, but how do they get in touch with VP of Hunstetten Storm, Bill Dickman? And I will also be posting that on my posts as well. But how do they get in touch with you, Bill?
Well, thank you. Yeah, thanks for that, because that's exactly what we need to happen. We need to have the individual players realize that this is a vehicle. Like you said, you know what? I'm out of college. I'm maybe playing independent ball, or I see this as a vehicle to do something internationally, open my horizons. Why not? Maybe sometimes we've had some individual coaching who said, you know what, I'm retired. I'd like to actually help out. I don't need a lot of money. I need a place to stay. And, you know, what can you make happen? To answer your question, those are the types of individuals that we're looking for.
Okay.
How they can reach us, we have our own website. It's stormbaseball.de. We have Instagram as well, and that's probably an excellent channel as well to reach out to us.
Okay.
Storm Baseball Germany is the Instagram handle, and Facebook is another channel where we can be seen and people can reach out. And once they initially reach out, that's when phone numbers get exchanged and we actually have personal conversations.
For sure. Thanks for that, Bill. And like I said, Dirtbags, I'll be posting that on our post as well for Bill, because hopefully from watching this episode and stuff like that, Bill's very humble and stuff like that. He really is, for the amount of work that he's done and behind the scenes, and his whole team. Again, it is a team on these types of magnitudes. There's a team, and you know that, Dirtbags, but you know, we always tell you what you need to hear, not necessarily what you want to hear on that. That's just what being a part of the Dirtbag Nation is. That's what part of Hunstetten Storm, after talking with Bill, is and stuff like that. It's not demanding it. It's just having certain character qualities, I guess, is the best part of way of saying that. And that's why I had to have this story. I had to share this story of Bill Dickman and the Hunstetten Storm and share with you in that. So reach out to them. If you're a player out there, it's a great league to play in. It's a tough league to play in. It's not just roll out of bed and go perform and hey, you're going to win. No. There's some big boys out there and stuff like that. And all across Europe. But if Germany is one of those places you're looking for, I highly recommend Bill Dickman and his Hunstetten Storm, because you're going to get truth. You're going to get quality. You're not going to get the bells and whistles. You're not going to get that. You're going to get roll up your sleeves and be a dirtbag, basically. Roll in the mud and have fun, but know you're really, truly part of something. And that's what's special about you, Bill.
Thank you.
Program, your community. We wish you nothing but the best of luck. Like I said, also, Bill will send me some photos that he has of the field for him and stuff like that. I'll get those up there as well. But forget that. Reach out to him. For God's sakes, reach out to him, because playing this game of baseball wherever you're playing is incredible.
Yeah, so, it can really move things.
Yeah, don't miss the opportunity.
From the individual side, I think also from the, you mentioned it earlier, people sometimes just internationally want to support. And at the risk of saying our hand is open, people who can identify with this is what the vision is, or this is what you're trying to move. By all means, people do it for different reasons. It's a good thing. Here's some cash, or I want to see some return on investment as far as, you know, what do I get for my brand and things like that. By all means, individuals reach out if you're interested in playing, but also individuals or companies, if you're interested in actually making differences, positive differences in people's lives using this vehicle of baseball, we're your address as well. So,
absolutely. And that's a great final point. We didn't get time to talk about it on this episode. Hopefully we'll jump on again, Bill, with you and stuff with that, because we're almost out of time. But it does work both ways. Hunstetten Storm plays in Germany, but part of that youth program and youth development is for any German player that aspires to play stateside at the collegiate level. And he has a couple of them right now in New York State playing collegiately, and that's just getting the ball rolling. So it works both ways. It's a German thing with an American game, and it really is a field of dreams. It's a field of dreams everywhere.
Thank you. If I could underline that really shortly. I realize we're at the end, but that's exactly right. It is a two-way street. We've been very fortunate through our baseball manager for the first Bundesliga over the past years. He'll be doing something else next year, just individual decision. But Lionel Chattel was elementary in turning this around, is to say, you know what, it is a two-way street. We are also connected to universities and professional baseball as well. 3 individuals have now received both academic and athletic scholarships. 2, as you mentioned, are playing Division II in New York State, and 1 is going to a community college. I believe a junior college is the right nomenclature for it, in Rhode Island. Others are interested in exactly that, because, you know, baseball doesn't have to take the professional route in the beginning. In fact, if you can get an education because of baseball, that's what it's about as well. So we're very proud to say through Lionel, this is also what happened with our players.
Yeah, there's no question about it, for sure. I mean, Dirtbags said it before, reach out to Bill, have a conversation. If nothing comes of it, nothing comes of it. But like we say, every conversation has a potential to be, it already is a great conversation. It has the potential to be an unbelievable conversation, an unbelievable opportunity. So don't sit on your hands. Pick a phone up, pick the email up, DM them on Instagram or Facebook. Like you said, get it done. Get it done for sure. You know, that's why we do these shows. It's to help you out. It's to help the people that we're talking with out, because there's amazing baseball people all around the world. And that's what we need to do. We need to keep sharing these great stories, these great people providing baseball opportunities for everybody. You're a fool if you miss out on the opportunity. So, Dirtbags, can't thank you enough for listening. Bill and myself, appreciate your time. Love it. Continue to get out there, get up, get after it, and get dirty every day, every week, on the field, off the field. And we'll see you right back here soon.